So Patty, we have a lot of hot topics today, right? So we're talking about e-commerce and online ordering with Zuza and their fully integrated solution that they now have that's branded for the ISO.
Right.
And then tell us about the Insider's Report.
Talking about payment trends, I mean, actually, payments are up. Card payments are up, but unfortunately, so is fraud. So we have some interesting insights on that. And then, James, your questions from the field?
Yeah. So talking about cash discounting, is it at the tipping point where it's time that you either need to jump in or realize you're going to miss the opportunity because of competitive pressure and all these other things? So we talk about the state of cash discounting right now, consumer reaction, ISO adoption, all of that. So that's what we cover in questions from the field.
It's a chock full episode, James. Let's go.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Merchant Sales Podcast.
All right, everybody. I am here today with Danny McHale, the CEO and founder at Zuza. How you doing today, Danny?
Doing great. Thank you, James. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Really excited to talk with you today. So Danny and his team have been doing a lot of work around online ordering and e-commerce for small business owners. Obviously, with COVID and everything, this is the perfect time to be talking about this, right? But we're going to talk about processor agnostic, right? So, just pure technology play, which I think makes this kind of a really unique conversation. So before we dive into all that, Danny, I know you've been on the podcast before, but can you give us a little bit of an update? How's Zuza doing? How was 2020 for you guys? Give us a little update on how you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, James, and thank you, Patty, for having us back on. 2020, was interesting. I think everybody had a goal or a game plan. And then something called COVID came along and derailed a lot of people's focus. But, fortunately for us, we saw quite a bit of growth during 2020, which is it's a nice thing to report. We started the year with wanting to expand what we considered the world's best white label POS system and wanted to evolve into the world's best white label ecosystem. So, why are we calling ourselves ecosystem now? It's pretty simple. We do a lot more than the POS. A lot of merchants that sign up today don't offer or even use the POS. Some do, some don't. But one of the big things we rolled out in 2020 was our own e-commerce and online ordering platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would imagine there was quite a bit of internal discussion when COVID hit. Did you guys kind of move that more to the front of the line as far as order priority, or was there some interesting shifts there?
I'll tell you what, knock on wood, we were very fortunate because we actually started it in 2019. Okay. So in 2019, we said, hey, I don't want to say we've mastered the POS, but we knew we were one of the industry leaders. At least that's what our merchants and our partners had been telling us. So we wanted to expand. Right. And we looked at everything from adding a new division called Zuza Lite, which we could talk about some other day, but that's just our mobile terminal. Sure. To online ordering, to we built our own gift card platform. But yeah, definitely when COVID hit, we were already in the works, but it got moved up a lot quicker.
Sure.
So we were fortunate where we were able to roll it out around summertime, where a lot of our competitors, I think, are still struggling to have a solution.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about, I want to kind of start out here. Let's kind of zoom out a little bit. Let's talk about business owners in general and kind of the challenges. So when we talk about physical location businesses, first off, so we have retailers, we have restaurants. Every retail restaurant business owner that I've spoken to in the last couple of years, they understand that they need to be online, whether that's online ordering, it's an e-commerce platform. They realize, hey, we need to be online. What are you seeing as far as the challenges in general that these small business owners are facing with kind of the solutions they're being presented with today?
No doubt online was the number one question that came into our sales line in 2020, no doubt, right? How do I take what I currently have and start to expand my business, whether because maybe some of them were shut down, some of them they saw a major dip in revenue and wanted to add it. Some, actually, you'd be surprised, we had a lot of customers that already were online, but we're using 4 or 5 different softwares. And they said, hey, how do I streamline this, right? This is not a scalable solution. So, the biggest problem we saw, James and Patty, and I think it's still out there, but people don't talk about it as much, is the biggest problem was a lot of these guys were using standalone terminals or legacy systems, right? That were not designed for this day and age.
Right.
Okay? And a lot of people don't talk about that. Or they were using a software that had online ordering, but it had to require a third-party app or download. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be honest, it was a mess. I mean, it was a mess. And fortunately for us, our merchants were great, but taking someone over from what they were currently using, 3 or 4 or 5 different softwares. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But, it's not, and by the way, a lot of people think it's the restaurants, it's the retailers. We have sporting goods stores. We have guys like salons, yoga studios, individuals like that that needed online scheduling because a lot of states you couldn't walk in and do quote, yoga. You needed to go on their website, make an appointment. They only had 2 or 3 people.
Right.
We offer that through our health and beauty division. So it was a mess, but the biggest thing that we saw, the biggest pain points were a lot of these guys were on standalone terminals or legacy systems that weren't designed for today's day and age, or a software that didn't have a single platform but used different apps. And there's a lot of other problems when you do that.
Right.
Yeah. It sounds like, though, also then that creates a lot of challenges for the ISOs and the resellers, right? I mean, what are you seeing there in terms of, I mean, because I know I've seen this with anecdotally with people, for example, in the massage area that looking for scheduling type of software. It would seem that there are some challenges there, right, for the feet on the street.
Absolutely. Because listen, let's be honest, salespeople love to sell, right? Salespeople don't want to sit there and hey, how do I get my online scheduling software to communicate to the POS system, which then sends a notification to the technician or the stylist. They don't want to do that. And then, quite honestly, Patty, it takes away from their revenue earning capabilities.
Of course. Sure.
So in 2014, I spoke at a conference, and thankfully they're having me back out this year, but I think I upset a lot of people back then where I said, look, this whole model of, let's have 1,000 softwares, nickel and dime the merchant. It's not even about the cost. It's not easy to set up.
Right. The complexity.
Right? That's the biggest problem that we see with a lot of the agents and ISOs is a lot of them actually, I've had some tell me we've given up on software. And so we can't give up. I said, because, you just maybe have had a bad run or two. I said, but let me introduce you to Zuza and show you why we do it different. But you're right. That's been a huge issue with individuals in our industry.
So let's do this because I want to kind of transition, and I do want to talk about Zuza and some of the new things that you've been building as far as online ordering and e-commerce and all that. Before we do that, though, I think it's important for our audience to get a little bit of an idea of how Zuza is structured and what makes it different and more flexible. I've always actually been a really big fan of the way you guys have the, kind of features versus the apps that are really prevalent in other ecosystems right now in the industry. So can you kind of talk about the importance of that, why you structured it that way, and then we can kind of transition to how you built the online stuff on top of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So James, my history. You and I have talked about it, I think, a time or two before. I at one point was the largest Papa John's franchisee in Michigan. So I've been a merchant.
Right.
I used to own a Super ISO. I was the CEO and founder of a Super ISO before that got acquired. So I've been in the ISO space as well. And now I'm in the technology space. And what we realized was it has to be easy. Merchants don't want to hear, and again, I'm sure there's good companies out there that do it a certain way, like Clover. They've done some good things, but we've also seen a lot of merchants not like the model where every time you need a app, you have to go to their app store and download it, right?
And pay for it.
So it costs money, right? So let's look at all the problems with that, and I'll answer why Zuza does differently. It costs a lot more money. It takes a lot more integration. A lot of times, and this is a big thing that people again don't talk about, but we hear it all the time. The apps don't communicate properly with each other, right? So when you're dealing with 3-4 different softwares, not only does it cost more money, is it harder to use? It's a lot harder to use, and they don't communicate the right way, right? So with Zuza, the way we've designed our software, it's in our DNA. There's no way to get around it. And unfortunately, we've upset a lot of gift card companies and online ordering companies and loyalty companies because we don't allow them to integrate with us, right? So what we've done is we built a single platform, whether it's cash discounting and surcharging, whether it's invoices, whether it's appointments and calendar, gift and loyalty, customer management. I mean, the list goes on and on. You don't have to go download a third-party app. You simply just toggle on and toggle off. And that's really what makes us a lot different than our competitors, is a single centralized ecosystem that works in multiple verticals.
Yeah. And I think it's really important too, to talk about the impact of that on the reseller, right? So like
Mhm.
for the merchant, they like the ease of it. It's no secret I'm a big fan of Zuza. We put out a joint ebook just recently about how to sell point of sale and things like that. And part of what I talked about in that ebook was, what I see on my side as a trainer and a consultant in this industry for the sales teams is that they're out there trying to sell these systems and they don't even know what they're selling. I mean, it's not realistic to expect a salesperson to say, here are the 750 available apps.
Right.
There's 15 different ones for each thing you might want to do. Go pitch this. Well, how are you going to do that? How are you going to demo that? So
Right.
the idea is, the reason I like the feature approach is, again, I'm more about the salespeople. I'm trying to help people make more sales. Well, if you're trying to help people sell point of sale, like to your point, I think it's almost more important to have the simplicity there even than for the merchant. The merchant's willing to overcome some barriers in order to get this to work for their business. Whereas the resellers, they just want to get a yes and they want to get a simple yes. So I think having that ability to just toggle stuff on is pretty cool. So you had this infrastructure, this idea of the features, you can just toggle on and off things. So then talk to us about, okay, you had that with the point of sale system. Now, what was the strategy or rationale? How did you build on top of that to help your merchants then take this online?
Yeah. I mean, and with a lot of agents and ISOs, for them, I think you said it best with, you got to make it easy for them.
Yes.
Okay. You got to make it super easy.
Right.
That applies to adding more features as well. Okay. So with our agents and our partners, what we love is, there was one individual last month, December, where he added a pet grooming business. He added a landscape nursery, a salon, a restaurant, and an automotive shop, right? So 5 completely different kinds of merchants.
Right.
The beauty of it is he knows the software so well that he just configured his demo a little bit different and he sold it. So what we're doing for our guys to help them is we're giving them a solution that works not in one vertical or 2, but in multiple verticals, but it's all one software. So quite honestly, I would love to show you our demo one day, James, but with us, to do an online account, you simply toggle on online ordering and e-commerce. And then you just add the items you want to appear onto the site. It's that simple.
Wow.
Yeah. I like that. And then, of course, that's all running. The other thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's all running off of one centralized database, right? Whether it's the point of sale or the online, everything is all, you don't have to worry about any integration issues there because it's all running off the same system, right?
No, and we had a merchant that was using a competitor of ours. He came over, signed up with us, and he was telling us that he had a bug there and it took him 3 weeks to solve it, right? With us, because you had 3 software companies talking to each other.
Right.
Okay? With us, it's us. You send in a request, we create a case or a ticket. Our engineers are on it immediately. And usually within an hour we have it fixed. Sometimes it takes a day or 2 or, depending on the size of it, but 9 out of 10 times it's resolved pretty quickly. Right. We've got a great dev team, headed up by one of the best guys in the industry. So it all communicates with each other. It's one platform, one support line, one solution. You don't have to, the last thing the merchant wants to hear, and this is what this guy told us was kind of funny. He said, well, I called this 800 number. They told us, oh no, that's because of this software company. Send him to that company. Well, then he called that app. They're like, oh no, we're all good. We already fixed it. We send it back to me. You have to call this third-party company. So he's like, I literally called 3 or 4 numbers. It took 3 weeks. Nothing got solved. I canceled. Right. So with us, it's 1-800 number, one person. You're going to get it solved, and we go from there. But yeah, having it all. And then, here's a deal that a lot of people don't talk about. It's not just online ordering. Everyone's all big on online ordering. Oh, I love online ordering. I want to be able to do e-com. I said, but wait a minute. How do you track your inventory?
I know. Right? I was just about to say that. Yeah.
because listen, placing an order for a men's polo size medium blue is one thing, but does it subtract from your inventory? How about cash discount and surcharge?
Right.
Do you have a cash discount and surcharge program in your retail? Well, I'm going to assume you want it on your e-com store as well. Right. A lot of guys don't do that. We have it.
Right.
Loyalty. I tell people all the time, I say, wait a minute, you have a loyalty program for your POS, but not for online? How does that make any sense?
Right.
If I'm buying a product from you, I want points both in your store and online, or else I'm going to feel like you're robbing me. Okay.
Right.
The list goes on. Gift cards. I mentioned loyalty, inventory. You want in today's day and age, and this is one of the topics I'm speaking on at a different conference. But what I'm saying is, there is no more this idea of brick and mortar and e-com. It's gone.
Right.
Okay. We need, as individuals in the payment industry, we have to stop thinking about, oh, that's a brick and mortar. That's e-com. No, it's a product, it's revenue. Who cares where it comes from,
Right.
right?
Right. Channel is irrelevant.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we've done. We've designed it. We never built our product thinking, well, that's coming from e-commerce, or that's coming from brick and mortar. No, it's a
Right.
single platform. Wherever the consumer wants to spend his dollars, the merchant should happily take it and give them a good.
Yeah,
That's
for
our
sure.
philosophy.
For sure. So I know what, a lot of our audience, I know where their mind is already going, and that is, okay, I've heard all this before. This sounds like a sexy technology that I could sell, but then I'm going to get people to say yes. Then I'm going to spend the next week trying to get it installed, and then I'm going to lose sales, right? So let's talk about that concern. So, obviously there's always a huge advantage to knowing what you're selling and
Right.
gaining experience, but talk a little bit about your approach as far as after a merchant says yes, then what have you found that works well to facilitate that so the salesperson can move on and actually make another sale?
Absolutely. And Zuza is not like any other company. I would love to sit here and say, hey, we started in 2013 and we knew everything out of the gate and we've had no problems. We definitely had some hiccups. And I would say the biggest hiccup was setup. Okay.
Yeah.
We've since solved that problem. And what we have right now is we have 1,400 technicians nationwide. All right. And what we're doing is we're making our part, not making, but we're strongly encouraging our partners to have a field service rep set up the business. So here's how easy we've made it. Application comes in, our Scottsdale, Arizona team works on building out the configuration, the profile, the software. A field technician is dispatched, for a certain date and time. And we have them set up everything from the routers, the cabling, the modem, the network. They pretty much do it all.
Right.
For a very, very low hourly rate. And that's pretty much it, James.
How long does that take, Danny?
It depends. We did a deal the other day where they had 3 stories, right? We sent out 3 technicians. It took a whole day, right? It was a massive, it was literally, I think it was about 60, 70,000 square foot facility. Okay. It was like a indoor arena, like my kids play soccer, t-ball, baseball, that fun stuff. So it was like an athletic facility. So they had, running cabling in that location wasn't that easy, but
Sure.
That was all day. Your average merchant, your hair salon, restaurant, retailer, they have that done in a couple hours max.
Yeah. Yeah. I really believe for a long time that's the right way to go. Not only because, the salesperson doesn't want to do it, but also because, let's face it, the idea of hiring people to do work like this has just gotten a lot easier, to get these vast networks across the country where they're not exclusive to one company, but they're doing a lot of things and they know how to do it. And
Absolutely.
so, right.
It's the whole idea of, you do what you do best and leave the rest to people who do that best.
Yeah, and the problem is the merchant didn't want to do this.
Right.
And I hate to say this, but a lot of guys in our industry, they don't know how to do this, right?
Of course.
And there are some that do, and if they want to do it on their own, God bless them, we'll help them. Okay?
Sure.
But we've gotten pretty adamant about, hey guys, let's send out a technician. They'll be there 2 hours, you'll be there 8 hours, and you'll be calling us for 7 hours.
Right, and those 8 hours, you could be making another sale.
Go do another sale. And that's what we're really that's why I think we saw a huge spike in our. I mean, we grew 400% last year. Okay,
Wow.
A lot of it is because of the single platform. That was really what attracted a lot of people. But the other thing was we just told people, if you're not good at something, don't do it. Let somebody else do it.
Love it. Love it. I love it. That's awesome. Okay, let's talk about cash discounting and surcharging. So obviously hot topic on our podcast. We talk about it all the time. Patty and I both are big proponents of both. Has there been any shift in strategy on your side between, I know you were leading the way there on the point of sale. Now you have the online and the kind of full platform. Talk to us about how you approach these things with that.
Yeah. So with us, with the Zuza ecosystem, our software doesn't care where the payment transaction's coming from. It doesn't care where the gift card transaction, the loyalty. It's a single platform. So we actually even call our online and e-com another station. That's our philosophy. So the Zuza philosophy is, if you turn on cash discount or surcharge, it basically gets turned on for both, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
If you turn on gift cards, it turns on for both. Loyalty for both. Inventory, if you want to track inventory, for both. We don't differentiate, right? We don't differentiate. So for us, the cash discount and surcharging has been a very welcomed tool by a lot of our partners, because when you're dealing with some of those other guys out there, some of the big guys that do the third-party apps and third-party ordering, like the DoorDashes or those guys, those can get quite costly, right?
Sure.
Those get pretty costly. With us, our merchants, not only are they not paying more, they're actually not paying anything for transactions. So we're literally telling them, hey, you could start selling products online and it won't even cost you a penny, right? So a lot of our agents have taken advantage of that. A lot of our sales partners, resellers, et cetera, they've enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, I bet.
So I think really the only thing left on my list I wanted to cover with you, Danny, is to talk about pricing a little bit. I know one of the big things about Zuza that attracted people was the simplicity of the pricing. Again, we talked about not having the apps you download and all that. Obviously, the online and e-commerce is like a totally different thing. But talk to us about, just I know you can get real specific, but give us some just basic idea. How have you structured the pricing for the merchants and how that relates to the ISOs and agents now that we're moving to adding online as well?
Yeah. So again, the simplicity of Zuza, what really attracts people to us is anything that's considered a station, we have a flat monthly fee for. So whether it's a POS system or an online ordering station, okay, or even now our mobile device, that's considered a station. Now, what we don't do is if they want estimates and invoicing, if they want gift cards, and I don't know many guys offering free gift cards out there or free gift card processing and transactions, free loyalty, free estimates and invoicing. We don't mark it up. We have a flat monthly fee. Now the salespeople can mark it up, but we have a small monthly fee. That's all we charge. Everything that I've mentioned on this podcast is included. It's all free.
Right.
So we obviously also have two programs. So pricing differs a little bit between our direct agent program, that's individuals that just want to sell the Zuza product, or what's been our most popular over the last 8 years is our white label reseller program. That's those two have different pricing models associated with them. But even when you peel back and look carefully, the same theory and pricing applies to both. We have one flat monthly fee, everything's included, no additional charge.
So what I hear you saying is, as always, you're not charging anything extra for features, but you consider online ordering or e-commerce to be like another station. And so you have like a flat monthly fee in order to have this additional place where they can take payments.
Absolutely, because they don't have to do. Again, we have. Sure. I would say, gosh, probably 50% in 2020. 50% of the merchants that signed up for online ordering didn't have the POS system, so you could sign up with Zuza just for online ordering.
Right.
And the same thing applies. You could cash discount, surcharging, gift cards, all that. It's all free.
Right.
Now, if they one day, and this is what a lot of our guys did, which was kind of clever. Now they're going back and they're trying to get the brick and mortar business.
Right.
And say, hey, you love our online ordering. Now let me also obtain this portion of the business and get another deal out of it. But yeah, so for us, we consider a station, and then we don't mark up everything else like Clover, Square, and those individuals. We just don't do that.
Sure. Love it. Love it. Good stuff.
Great stuff. Yeah.
So let's see here. I want to talk about our audience is going to be interested. They're going to want to go and learn more about Zuza. Where would you send them to learn more about your company and what you guys have to offer?
Yeah. The best way to get a hold of us is just email sales@getzuza.com. All right. And obviously mention that you heard us on the show, but sales@getzuza.com. That's
awesome.
The best way. One of our guys, one of our team members will get back to you.
Cool. Love it.
Pretty much it.
One other link I'll mention on here too is I hadn't thought about this till just now, Danny, but I probably want to make the link to that ebook available. If you guys go to ccsalespro.com/Zuza, I'll make sure I have put the link right at the top where you can download that free ebook that Danny and I worked on together about how to sell point of sale and kind of the value selling approach that's working in the marketplace. So so you have sales@getzuza.com to email. And then of course, getzuza.com is the main website. If you want to get that ebook on how to sell point of sale systems that Danny and I worked on, just head over to ccsalespro.com/ZUZA, and I'll make sure that link is up there by the time we put this podcast out. So, Danny, as always, great insights and great information for our audience. I know they're going to love it, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah,
thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you, Patty. Thank you, James. It's always a pleasure being here. I listen to your guys' podcasts all the time. I think it's one of the best products in the marketplace. So thank you for having us again. Stay healthy, stay safe, and hopefully now with things starting to open up a little bit, hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Back at you, my friend.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you. God bless.
So, Patty, talking about our sponsor, Valor Paytech, again, really what I believe is the leader in these standalone terminals, as well as kind of this omni-channel solution for small to medium merchants. I want to talk today about pay at the table because, Patty,
Okay.
it's amazing to me that 2 years ago, if you would have said, James, what's one of the top business types to avoid when selling cash discounting? I would
You
have
would've
said
said
fine dining
restaurants.
restaurant. Yes.
Yep.
Why? Because of the tip.
Of
It was
course.
way too difficult to figure out what that non-cash adjustment would be, and then they
Mhm.
end up paying some fees, but not all. It's very confusing.
Right.
Whereas with Valor, now that they've got the cost of these wireless terminals down so low,
Mhm.
and the idea of bringing them all together on a multi-mid account with like a real nice dashboard to manage them under, with integrations with point of sale providers and all that.
Right.
Now it really makes sense to go to these restaurants and say, hey, look, I can save you $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, but you're going to have to
Right.
change the way you do business a little bit because your servers are going to come and hand somebody a device. And
A device. Okay. Yeah.
a lot of people actually like that better anyway. I know I do because I can use my chip or my
Me too.
my contactless payment there as well.
Right.
But the best
Right.
part is with Valor, they have all of this figured out to make sure that the non-cash adjustment charge is charged on the tip as well as on the amount, and it's compliant because the consumer can see the total amount, before they put their card in because they're doing the tip first.
And that's really important because I know myself and a lot of people I know tip in cash.
Yes.
Because we have this feeling, I waited tables when I was young. I don't want the surface fee to come out of that poor wait
Yes.
staff's
Yes.
pay, tip.
Right.
And so by doing this in that way, you're actually giving people an option to
Right.
maybe even tip better.
Yes, and you're making it very, very clear. So I think, what I would say is if you haven't taken a look at Valor, or if you did a while ago, but you want to look again, just go to ccsalespro.com/Valor, VALOR, and get your free demo and check it out.
And just to throw in there, which we've talked about before, what really makes this solution grand in my mind is that it's processor agnostic.
Exactly.
And, it makes it so much easier. And as James describes in our questions from the field section this week, we're approaching a tipping point on cash discounting. So you should really get in on this, and this is a great opportunity. ccsalespro.com/Valor for your free demo. Right, James?
That's right, Patty.
And now, here is questions from the field with James Shepard.
So, Patty, today I want to talk about the tipping point with cash discounting in 2021. Lately,
And
I've
what
been
will be the tipping point, James?
well, the problem that we're facing with cash discounting that we've always faced is there's a lot of unfamiliarity around it and kind of uncertainty with merchants.
Right.
For a long time, there was uncertainty even in the payments industry. Is Visa going to shut this
Correct.
down? Are we waiting on this inevitable shutdown?
I mean,
and
2 years ago, people were telling me, "Oh, this is going to fly. This is just going to die
Yeah.
a slow,
right.
lonely
I mean, I
death."
feel like 6 months ago, people were still saying that.
Yeah, yeah,
Hopefully, I think most people are kind of like, I think this is here to stay in some form or another.
I agree.
But now there's been this thing where merchants, weren't as familiar with it. But what we're seeing is in 2021, I was talking. The reason I thought of this is this morning I did a summit, an annual meeting for an ISO. I was like the keynote speaker for their conference, but it was virtual
Right.
because
Zoom,
I'm doing a lot
of
of the
course.
Zoom virtual conferences
Right.
this year. And I was talking to them about this, and I said, it's so interesting because, cash discounting right now is at this tipping point. I believe sometime this year we're going to hit this kind of maximum opportunity for cash discounting where merchants are starting to know what it is.
Mhm.
Most business owners today, they know another business owner that's doing cash discounting or surcharging,
Right.
right? And so it's
Right.
still only maybe 12, 15% of the market, if that, but they know somebody doing it. They've seen it. So
Mhm.
they're starting to go, okay, wait a second. So I can eliminate my payment processing costs. It's starting to kind of sink in a little bit.
The light bulb's going off, so to
Right,
speak.
right.
Right.
And then the other thing that's happening is now technology is starting to catch up. So whether it's
Yeah.
our sponsor Valor Paytech having
Mhm.
a good technology, omni-channel, whether it's Zuza POS, whether it's Mint, whatever, all these different Paradise POS. There's tons. I could name 15. Now all of these technology providers, processor agnostic or not, they are coming out with good technology around cash discounting as well.
Which makes it which takes out all those sort of difficult interval steps that kind
Exactly.
of
Yes.
yes.
So
Yeah.
I guess the point I really want to get across, just in a real short questions from the field, is people are asking, James, how big of an opportunity is cash discounting? How long do I have to take advantage of it? And my
Right.
answer is I really believe that for years to come, there's going to be some opportunity. but I also really believe that 2021 is going to be maximum opportunity because when we go into 2022, I think you're going to be at a point where a lot of the low-hanging fruit, I like to call it, is gone.
It's gone.
And then it's going to be convincing the business owners that don't like the idea to embrace it. That's going to be a great opportunity, but that's not the same as go find all the business owners that are already ready to do it. They're just waiting on somebody to walk in the door or pick up the phone.
Right. You don't have, it's not, after you get past the low hanging fruit, you have to spend a lot of time convincing those guys.
Yes. And so I think the opportunity is huge. It'll be around for a while, but I really believe this is the year where, in your market, there's probably going to be, within, if you're depending on your geographic area, there's going to be several hundred businesses that are going to do cash discount or surcharge this year. For most agents out there, it could even be as many as 500. And so the only question really is who's going to talk to them about it first? Right. And you say, well, I talked to everybody 6 months ago and they weren't interested. Well, that was 6 months ago.
6 months ago. Yeah.
Now they talk to their uncle who's been doing it. Now they've seen it over in this pizza shop. And so this is a network effect. And so the more, that's just like saying, that would be like if Facebook said, right after they started, 6 months in, they said, well, we already asked that person if they wanted to be on Facebook.
Right.
No,
right.
But now they're the older people, they're never going to sign up for Facebook, right?
Right.
Well, until their grandkids get on there, until their kids get on there, then all of a sudden they're like, wait a second, we're missing out on pictures. And so in the same way with cash discounting, these business owners that don't like it, it's not that they're opposed to saving money. The thing they're opposed to is being the first one to try some risky strategy. Well, once they've seen it in the market, they're going to become more and more accustomed to seeing it, and they're going to be more and more interested in it. So I really believe 2021 is that tipping point. So if you're thinking...
You also, if I can just interject for a second, James, because I also would seem to me 2021 becomes... the momentum is greater now after a year of dealing with all the, so many merchants have seen sales decline.
Yes.
Their margins squeezed.
Yes.
That they're just this is a great opportunity to go in and say, hey, I have a way to save you money.
Right. Well, and I think on top of that, consumers now have a mindset that small businesses are struggling. Right. And they understand that they might need to add a service fee of some kind or a non-cash adjustment. And so, I think the mindset is there. I think the technology is there. I think the familiarity is getting there. Now, again, you walk into businesses, 60% of them are still going to laugh you out of the room and say it's a terrible idea. So I'm not saying it's like everybody wants it, but the 40% that are remaining, that's a big chunk. There's like 40%, I believe, that are somewhat receptive to the idea, and probably half of those you can sell them, so the numbers game plays out really, really well. But you got to get out there and do the work and be the one to make that contact.
Well, 40% of millions of merchants is still pretty
a big opportunity.
Universe.
And again, the other thing too, I think that's the other, one other thing I would say about this and why I think it's a tipping point, because our industry has now started to embrace the concept and said, okay, this is going to be here a while. You got to understand that if you want to take advantage of this opportunity now, well, now you're trying to outrun all the ISVs and all the big processors that 3 years ago were telling me I was crazy.
Right.
And that are now all calling me saying, James, please help us set up our cash discount program and give us training so that our agents can sell it. So, they've all got their overseas call centers now that are blanketing the country with, excuse me, to eliminate your processing fees. And so, this is the time now where if you want to get a big portfolio of cash discount deals, you got to go do it right now. And I would even say this is also the tipping point of protecting your existing portfolio. So if you've been resistant to these programs and you've got 300 merchants and they're not on cash discount, they're not on surcharge, well, they're going to get hammered with it this year and you're going to lose a lot of them. So you might want to reach out and offer the program to them and just let them know you have it, so that you don't lose them. So that's my thought. I think 2021 is the tipping point where it's time to jump in and really get this opportunity if you believe in it.
Good stuff, James. Thanks.
Thanks, Patty.
This is the Insider's Report with Patty Murphy.
James, it's that time of year when, we get a lot of earnings reports out, and I like to scan them, particularly as it relates to payments companies.
Sure.
And I wanted to share this week with some info that I pulled out of the MasterCard and Visa earnings statements. Visa, for the quarter ending December 31st, saw payments volume increase 5% over the same period last fiscal year.
Okay.
Total processed transactions rose 4% to about $39.2 billion over the same period a year ago. MasterCard, meanwhile, says U.S. payment volumes were up 5% in December and even more in January.
Wow.
In fact, they did their earnings call at the end of January. They said in the first 3 weeks of the month, they saw increases of 11%, 10%, and 7% respectively here in the U.S.
Wow, that's amazing.
That was amazing, right? And they kind of credited the stimulus checks that were sent out in January.
Okay.
You know, some of the bump came from that.
Sure.
And they also said that, okay, can't pronounce this guy's name, and I feel really bad. I think it's Sachin Mehra, who's the CFO at MasterCard.
Okay.
He pointed to increasing adoption of contactless payments as a big driver for the company's growth.
Sure.
And that they're seeing traction with tools. It offers businesses, to kind of drill down into spending trends on a more granular level.
Right.
For example, one of the examples he gave, which I thought was really interesting, is they're working with QSRs to understand how to position breakfast deals now that a lot of folks aren't, driving by on their way to work, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting point because I have to admit, I'm a breakfast freak.
Sure.
That's like my favorite meal of the day.
Yeah.
And I love being able, if I go out at noon, man, I want to get breakfast. I don't want to get a sub.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's really interesting. I go to McDonald's sometimes because I love getting their big Cokes. And then anybody who knows me knows I love to drink caffeine. But the bunch of the McDonald's, since the COVID thing started, aren't serving breakfast in the afternoon.
Huh. Really?
Yeah. In fact, where I am, there's probably, within a 10-mile radius, probably 3 or 4 McDonald's, and only one does it.
Huh.
Which, is kind of like a drag because it's like, if that's what I want, I'm going to go out of my way, even if it's all the way,
Right.
the furthest. And I, and I do think it's, as more of us are working from home, the idea of grabbing a quick bite isn't what it used to be. Our timing is a lot off. So,
sure.
But anyway, so I wanted to also share some bad news that came across my desk recently.
Okay.
And that is, these reports are painting a dire picture of payments fraud. And not surprisingly, the pandemic is being cited as a major culprit. There's a company, Ideology, which is a fraud solutions company. It said in a recent report, the pandemic was a historical fraud event, and the data shows that criminals showed up. So they surveyed a bunch of executives across industries, and here are some of the results that I found really stunning. 69% of companies saw increased fraud last year, compared to 45% in 2019.
Wow.
Most of the fraud was in online and mobile channels. No real big surprise there. It was up 12% over 2019 in the online channel.
Okay.
89% in the mobile channel.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, you got to think 89%, the base was a lot smaller, right?
Oh, that's true. Right. Sure. Okay.
Okay. So, you have to kind of look at it
There wasn't
that
as
way.
much fraud related to mobile before, but it grew a lot.
As mobile grew, the fraud grew.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
Okay. Sure.
Credit, debit, prepaid card frauds, the most prevalent across all industries, reported by 63% of companies. And 8 out of 10 companies expect fraud to increase this year.
Yeah.
And
they're
it was
probably
interesting.
right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said I'm sure they're right.
Yeah. And then, here, and it is true. These kind of results are eerily close to what we saw in 2009, for example, at the start of the Great Recession.
Sure.
And here, one other survey I wanted to run by you and our listeners is one by T1 Payments. They've seen they said that 94% of payment professionals that they surveyed have seen fraud attacks rise since the start of the pandemic. And card testing, where fraudsters test a stolen card information, with unsuspecting online merchants, doing like small orders all at once
Right.
to see if it's a good card. They said that is really, really climbing.
Wow.
55% of execs said that it was a big problem, particularly during the holiday season.
Yeah, sure.
And here was another one, and this is kind of out in left field, but I thought it was interesting. Only 16% said the gift card fraud, and 13% said refund fraud were big problems.
And like 10 years ago, that would have been like the only problems. Almost.
Exactly, right? I mean, that to me just shows like what a different marketplace we're dealing with today. It's just, it's just not.
And it's funny you say that. I was actually, we had a surprising experience where we had ordered some curtains from Walmart online.
Online, right?
And when we got them, ordered 4 of them. 2 were the wrong size, 2 were the right size. So we went back to the store. We had already opened them. We threw away the packaging. We didn't have the receipt. So we just walk in with these like 2 curtains. You know what I mean? And I
I've
thought,
done that.
and I was like, oh, they're
not going to let us do that.
And the lady just, nice as pie, oh, let me see if I can find this in the system. Oh, there it is. I looked up our name, and I think a lot of it is systems and technology have improved so much that, you're able to look up and see, we did send them 4 curtains yesterday.
Right.
And I think that the fraud when it comes to returns and stuff has come down low enough now to where it's almost like, do you really want to tick off your good customers by hassling them? Just take it, you're good to go. Don't worry about it.
And I think big merchants like Walmart are particularly good that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done the same thing like you have, and it'd be like, I know in the back of my head I paid $20 for that, but they're looking it up and it's $16. So
right, whatever.
Just I don't want to have this cluttering up my house.
Right. Give me a store credit and we'll go get something.
And I'll go get something, right? But I do think that that's really interesting. I mean,
it is.
These are trends that we really should be watching out for, because particularly I know you and I both have been encouraging ISOs and MLSs to be selling, the e-commerce solutions and the mobile solutions.
Yes.
But you need to be aware that, the merchants need to be educated about this stuff.
Right. They need to be careful before they deliver or mail out that $1,000 item.
Right.
To make sure that they have some protection in place to make sure it's not fraudulent and, have some operating procedures in place and things of that nature. And that's the thing too. It's interesting. A lot of these problems, I think the perspective is, fraud is something that's always electronic. It's always a hacker. You need a system. No, it's normally not. It's normally much lower tech than that. And you just need a process. You just need to call somebody and make sure they ordered the item, or, you just need to do something when you have good operating processes in place.
Well, that's true. And I mean, I've been doing a lot of writing for the Green Sheet on things like identity fraud and that kind of stuff too, and I've been surprised at how many of these cases are just, somebody throws away receipts.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like we had one the other a few weeks ago that I thought was a pretty good one. It was actually around Christmas time. I ordered something from a website I'd never ordered from before. And it was like a $400 item. It was a gift for my brother-in-law, one of these grill things that they use when you're camping. And within 2 hours, I got an email, a personal email from the company.
Right.
And they said, hey, just wanted to make sure that, whatever. I can't remember. They asked me very minimal information,
Right.
And I responded back with the information they wanted. And, what's my card ending, or if you just little things.
Yeah, exactly. Did you
did you purchase this?
Purchase this? What's the card end in? Yeah, exactly.
And
what's the zip code?
Right. And I responded and they said, great, it's on its way. It's little things like that where I'm sure they had something internally that flagged this is a first time buyer. They're purchasing something over X amount of dollars.
Right.
We got to ship it out, And I think that's how you avoid fraud.
It really doesn't take that much to pick up the phone and do that confirmation.
Yeah.
I've had the same experience, and I'm really happy when they do it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, I would much rather that than them get screwed or lose money. So I think it's good. So, good stuff, Patty.
Yeah. Thanks, James.
This episode of the Merchant Sales Podcast was brought to you by Valor Paytech, the technology company that is revolutionizing cash discounting and surcharging with innovative features like dual mid support, waive the fee options, and even adding non-cash adjustment charges to tips. Now, all of this is made possible by a variety of technology devices and solutions such as gateways, tabletop point of sale devices, and features like SMS text messaging and e-invoicing, all with cash discounting in mind. Valor Pay Tech, bold ideas, smart execution. Make sure you head over to ccsalespro.com/valor, VALOR, ccsalespro.com/valor, VALOR. Schedule your free demo today and watch videos and learn more about this amazing technology solution.
Thank you for listening to the Merchant Sales Podcast. Whether you are an industry veteran, processing executive, or just trying to learn about the payment space, we appreciate your time. The Merchant Sales Podcast is a joint production of greensheet.com and ccsalespro.com, and we hope you will tune in next week for more information and tips on building your merchant services business.